Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our new guest hosts, Dave Catallo, and he comes to us with a background in health and wellness and in safety as well. So I'd love it, Dave, if you can kind of tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now, and then we'll go back in time and ask you a little bit about what you were like as a kid and kind of follow that journey from there to now. So what are you up to these days, Dave?
Sure. Thanks, Luki, and appreciate the opportunity to join you today. As far as what I'm up to, I'm a health and wellness, and as well as a safety leader for a large organization in the manufacturing industry, and basically, spend a lot of time actually working with our leaders, trying to encourage getting our associates and everybody involved, and trying to take ownership of their own health and well-being. So spend a lot of time just working within that realm.
Sounds good. So if you can go back in time and kind of let us know, what was Dave like as a kid? So some of the early fond memories that you had growing up. What were you like kind of as young, wee little Dave?
Well, I'd say I probably started off a little bit more on the shy and reserved side. I will say that I was fortunate to fall within a good group of friends that allowed me to open up and really show my true self. And I always took an interest in how from a health perspective, I did take an interest in how the body worked and whatnot. So I got into some just weight training and that a little bit early. And I think that a lot of things that I did back then, I realized probably wasn't the greatest for me, but yeah, that's kind of where I started.
So talk to us a little bit about kind of shy Dave and maybe getting into that group of friends that helped him open up. So what was that like? Was it kind of like almost kind of like deathly afraid to connect and reach out to people, that sort of thing? Or is it more like, you know what, you wanted to say something and you just needed kind of the right environment to that? So walk us through a little bit about kind of that situation.
I think there was a little bit of a comfort with myself component to it. And then there was just the not wanting to I guess at the point there was not wanting to stand out or be, I don't know if there was a bit of fear in what others would think. But once I was able to, find others that I can relate really well with, and, that aspect of being goofy or coming across as, you can be genuine with them and not, you don't need to be reserved or wonder how they're going to think of you. So it was, nice to get in a group with kind of that thought.
Cool. And can you tell us a story about maybe a specific instance that kind of allowed you to say, you know what, now I'm comfortable with these folks and I can kind of be my true self? Because I know a lot of folks out there, myself included, right? Like you're always worried about kind of the fear of judgment, what people will think of you, whether it's clothes or how you behave, how you talk, or all that sort of stuff. But do you have a moment where you said, you know what, I'm so comfortable with these folks, I can do kind of these silly things or these whatever things that I don't really care because I know they'll accept me for who I am. Do you have a story that you could share about that?
I think probably the extreme example. We had back in high school, we had a dress code, and then every once in a while you'd have a dress down day. And again, I got to the point where I had these yellow and black kind of plaid type of pants that just weren't fashionable at all. But again, at that point, I was so comfortable with the group and who I was around, and that they'd have my back no matter what. That just became a way that I expressed myself, and I wore those pretty much during those. Anyways, yeah. Not a aficionado on the side, but
yeah. And you cut out a little bit, but what I heard was you had kind of yellow and black plaid pants, and you had some friends that were willing and able to kind of accept you, even though your fashion sense wasn't necessarily at its height at that point. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same way where I don't think I have that much fashion sense. I only look good now because my wife usually picks my clothes out for me. Sort of help me buy some of that, right? So talk to us a little bit about that interest in how the body works. So when was kind of the first kind of inklings of that? Was that kind of younger when you were like in elementary school, or is it in high school, or like what was kind of the first time when you started kind of diving into the inner workings of the human body?
Yeah, I think I took a course on just in high school. I think it was grade 11 or grade 12, and it was basically along the lines of kinesiology, human conditioning, and whatnot.
Okay.
So an introduction into it, and that's where I kind of got a glimpse of what there's actually, I guess, going into grade 12 OAC, trying to figure out what what I wanted to do with my life. I needed to figure out the way I was raised, the idea of going to university, then finding a good job. That was kind of what was instilled in me. So I guess you can call it my subconscious programming was aligned with that. So I thought, well, if I'm heading that route, I might as well try to figure out something that I'll enjoy. And so that's kind of the idea of I wanted to get in shape. I wanted to be able to do that, and that's kind of how the interest came.
Sounds good. And then for those listeners that don't know, OAC is Ontario Academic Credit, and it's actually grade 13. So we're old. Way back when they actually had a year before university called OAC, but now I think they scrapped that, and you go from grade 12 to straight to university, college, or post-secondary. So just for folks who aren't familiar with that term. So walk us through about kind of like getting into shape. So you took this kinesiology course, or there was part of the course that had an aspect of kinesiology in it, and then you said, okay, this stuff about the human body is kind of cool and interesting, and obviously you went forward to university to ultimately take a degree in kinesiology. But what is that kind of path to get it shape, and how does it manifest in kind of your kind of day-to-day life?
Yeah, so that's interesting. Like when I was in university, I did learn about anatomy, physiology. I spent quite a bit of time actually focusing in on ergonomics through university. So about how does the body work, and how you actually adjust the way we do things to minimize the risk of injury. So the actual weight training and conditioning side kind of took a sideline. It was a interest, and I tried to keep up with it. But honestly, towards the end of university, and then early on into my career, I guess the best way to put it is, when a newly engaged couple puts in a lot of effort to try to look great for their wedding photos.
Okay.
Well, my wife now, but my fiance at the time, you can say we kind of skipped past that stage and went straight into adding the comfort pounds you normally put on afterwards. So when I first started working, you can say that I wasn't in the greatest shape, and with the demand of the job, other priorities coming up, I didn't really put the time and effort where I really wanted to, but it wasn't happening. So I went through a couple different iterations of trying the latest fads, trying to adjust my diet, trying to change the exercises that I do. And, it wasn't until I kind of, maybe had an epiphany moment or whatnot, where I was like, you know what, this is actually more of a lifestyle change that I needed to make overall, like a holistic approach to it, versus trying to hit, work on my nutrition. Okay. And then work on fitness or whatnot. And yeah, I think once I kind of clued in on that aspect, and try to figure out more so what can I do that I'll be able to sustain over the long run. And, that's where I kind of hit the ground running and was able to make some real progress.
And can you go back to that epiphany? I don't know if there was like one moment, or if there's a lot of little things that kind of led up to that moment, but like, because it sounded like well, I knew you during those times, and you were a little bit heftier, I guess. And yeah, I guess you talked about like comfort pounds and stuff like that, right? And it's not like you're huge or anything, but we wouldn't necessarily say that you were kind of the epitome of health, right? And then you mentioned that you're trying to take a little bit more control, and you were kind of, I guess, yo-yoing back and forth, where you were healthy and not, that sort of thing. And what was that kind of like moment that said, you know what, I'm going to make a change? Was there a moment, or how did that happen?
Yeah, it was a big change in the mindset. Like when I would go back to the reason why I was doing it or why I wanted to, and just having a goal of being healthy or wanting to look good. I think those goals were too surface level that didn't let me stick to it when I really needed to, or allow me to continue on. Like I want to look good, so I go on a diet, and I try to follow a certain diet plan. I remember doing the cabbage soup diet at one point. Right? So it's like a 1 week really intensive, and you eat certain things each days, I think. But anyways, and I lost the weight, or like a good amount of weight, and that, but it wasn't sustainable. Like after it's over, you go back to what you were doing before, and things go back, and you seem to balance out to where your body wants to be. Like you kind of like a preset disposition there. Even with exercising, like I did, I'm not sure if you remember, years back, there was a P90X program. And so I went heavy and into that, and I saw results, and it was good. But after I kind of finished the program, time goes on, life gets busy, and all of a sudden back to almost square one or worse. Right. So that's the kind of yo-yo effect that was going on. So, but once I kind of triggered in that, why am I doing this? What do I want? And I dug deeper with the, I wanted to, and at that point, I had I think two or three kids at the time. Anyways, I got four kids. I didn't mention that, but I had a couple kids under the belt, and kind of hit home that I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be able to not only support them, but be in a position to enjoy them as they grew up and do things with them. So again, everybody has their different motivators, but for me, that was kind of what hit home, that I can't be obese, I can't have high blood pressure, and family history of heart condition, so that doesn't bode well with where I want to be long term. So again, once I keyed into that motivator, it really helped me stick with it.
Yeah, and I think that resonates with me as well, where that surface level, I just want to be healthy, look good, kind of helps for a while. So I mean, I'm not a huge guy. Most people think I'm pretty scrawny, relatively speaking. But I guess during the wedding, I actually was probably at my heaviest, right? When I got married, and then I had like extra poundage there that I didn't necessarily appreciate. And then I think it was a similar thing where if you kind of think about, when I think about my why, it probably had to do with the kids, in the sense, what, I don't want to be like winded when I play with them, that sort of thing, right? I want to be able to keep up and even do better with them, so that I can kind of push them to grow and be the best versions of themselves. And then when you get like doctors' reports with like high blood pressure and stuff like that, which is new to myself, then just adding the extra little bit of exercise and better health and eating a little bit better. But you took it a little bit more to the extreme, in the sense that you've done much more than I have. But again, a lot of that stuff resonates. So what were some of the kind of key changes that you put into place? So I know you as someone who started doing triathlons and stuff like that, like, and doing runs and things like that. What was kind of the initial build up to that point? Like, how did you get from, I just want to be healthy, now I have my why, and then what were some of the changes that you made along the way to kind of help you grab kind of health by the horns and kind of run with it?
Yeah, sure. I think, I kind of used a little bit of management strategy, transferable skills here, right? So I used the draw, see, think approach, where I kind of set out and drew an image, or try to see, what's an epic target to shoot for.
Okay.
And it's almost that laughable goal that you throw out there that you're even embarrassed to say. And so I had that out there, and a marathon was that goal. I actually had a manager. This is when I first started out full time after university. I had one of the managers basically ask me, "Say, Dave, when are you going to run a marathon?" And I'm like, "Are you looking at me like as if that's ever going to happen, right?" Like that was, I was kind of a little bit insulted for why I was even being asked that question. But it kind of hit home that well, you know what, I do want to make a change. I do want to be healthy. So what can I do about it? But I started off by making small, like setting small goals, small targets. So I had the epic target, but how am I ever going to get there? It's not going to be a jump. It's going to be one step at a time. So I made a goal for myself to just start showing up. Go to the gym. Actually, it was every day of the work week. I had to show up. It didn't matter if I was there for 10 minutes or if I was there for an hour. The goal was to get there. And that kind of led to me starting to feel better, getting more energy. And that's where I was like, you know what, I could probably do a 5K run. And worked up to that, did a couple 5K runs under my belt. And in my mind, my actual target of where I thought, if I can do a 10K, I'd be, I consider myself healthy. If I can do that, not winning a race,
Right.
not really trying to compete, just being able to participate, right? And I did the 10K. That felt good. And so again, it was definitely a long process, but it got to the point where I'm like, well, if I can do a 10K, why not try a half marathon?
Mhm.
I did the half marathon, and then it came to the point where marathon still looked scary, but it no longer seemed out of reach. And
Right.
that's where I think I mentioned it to you. We ended up, the family and I, going down to Disney to participate in the Dopey Challenge, which was a 4-day race,
Mhm.
basically doing a 5K on the Thursday, a 10K on the Friday, a half marathon on the Saturday, and then a full marathon on the Sunday. So I think, once I finished that last race, that's where the message kind of really sunk home with me. It was like, holy, wow, I just did something that I once thought was impossible. And so that's kind of, and that kind of gave me some confidence that, it doesn't matter in what aspect of life that I'm dealing with, whether it's, my career, my, at work, or what I'm trying to accomplish at home. Just having the right mindset and being able to rally the support behind me and go after it. It's surprising what we can accomplish.
Cool. And I'd love if you chat a little bit about kind of the journey, because once you set that epic goal, then everything was rainbows and unicorns along the way, right? Like it was all perfect and all that sort of stuff, and nothing went wrong at all.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Absolutely, right? So, but I would imagine, obviously, saying that with a lot of sarcasm, in that there's probably a bunch of challenges along the way. Like, what kept you going along the way to be able to, well, over 4 days, run out 5, 10, half, and then a full, that sort of thing, versus someone who just even scoffed at the whole notion of even running at all, right? What was kind of some of those driving things, and if you were to give some advice to someone who was kind of on that path, so what might you share with someone in those shoes?
Yeah, I think like with anything in life, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to do it on your own. So reaching out and for one, making the goals, letting people know about what you're going after, what you're trying to accomplish, and just that kind of brings you a whole another level of support. People are encouraging. You figure that you might get judged or whatnot, but it's totally the opposite. They want to see you succeed, and they'll help you. I had a good friend of mine who I remember during my first half marathon. It was a windy day. We did the one up in Blue Mountain. And for the good portion towards the end of the race, I'm hiding behind him as he's blocking the wind for me, just to give me a little resistance on the run, right? So, so just being able to connect with people, rally that support you need, and there was challenges. Like you mentioned that I have completed a triathlon, a few of them. The first year as I was going through, I ended up hurting my back about probably halfway through my training program. So there was still a couple months before the races were coming. But at that point, I was a pretty, it was, I'd say there was a point where I could give up, or what do I need to do to actually accomplish what I'm going after? And that's where I decided, you know what, I'm going all in. I got the support as far as rehabilitation goes. I did, they're telling me I need to do stretching. I did it religiously, work on different aspects. So again, it's one of those things where if you are trying to accomplish something, barriers do come in the way. It's just how do you deal with those in order to get what you're going after. And I at no point am I trying to suggest working through and going through and trying to what is it? The idea of being injured and just tough your way through it. That's not the case. I definitely made sure that I was healthy enough to actually participate without putting myself at risk.
Right.
But giving up would have definitely been the easier route.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's someone named David Goggins who recently has come out, and he's kind of like the toughest man in the world, where like he I forget what the races were, but some like ridiculous like 24-hour races where I think he had like I don't know, torn one of his ligaments, and then he still kept on running and put himself through a lot of hurt. But we're not suggesting anyone do that. As Dave said, like make sure that you're rested and recovered and all that sort of stuff, because there are some very exceptional people out there, and that there's kind of other people who at least can kind of reach their goals. But at the same time, like having thought that a marathon was like totally out of reach and then being able to achieve it, then there's so many things that is out there for you to be able to achieve it as well. So I love if we took a bit of a detour on the health side and go into more the business side, because I know that you ended up doing your MBA, and I think you've just recently completed it, or at least most of it. Walk us through kind of that journey in completing it. And I know you were starting a business and you were like selling like candles and stuff online. So like walk us through a little bit about that other side, other than just pure health side of yours.
Yeah. So definitely trying to take a holistic approach just to my life. Like I didn't want to, and I don't define myself by my career.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what I'd like to say is that I'm always learning, creating and sharing, trying to, develop personally, but also support and help others. So with regards to, the MBA was just another opportunity to level up my own skill set and help me in that regard. Obviously, transferable skills that I can apply into my role, within the current organization that I'm working within. Mm-hmm. But also just as far as other opportunities, can definitely leverage that. The candles, again, that I think was more, again, the idea of learning how to do something. Honestly, where that came from was this was back in 07, 08. We were in the economic downturn. Things weren't looking that great. I was in the
previous economic downturn, not the
previous one. Yeah. And young family, and I'm just trying to set things up. And one of the things that I was piecing together was a emergency kit for the family. And so I did some research and saw that these soy wax candles were the they're natural, so they're not as carcinogen as the regular paraffin wax or whatnot. They burn, they last longer. And so I was like, okay, well, let's get those. And then I looked at the price tag. I was like, wow, these things are expensive. So why don't I figure out how to make them? So that's what I did. I ended up learning how to make them. And then, my wife asks me, well, what if you put some scent in them? Can you do that? Right. And then it led to scent, color, and the different kinds. And yeah, it was just something to play around with. And then eventually other people showed interest in them. So I started to sell them a little bit, but never really took it anywhere further than that. But,
sure. Yeah.
So it's just a hobby.
It's more of a hobby to kind of explore that I could make it and learn new things. And if you ever wanted to and turn that into a business or like, I don't know, Amazon drop shipping, I should probably do that at some point in time. But as we start to kind of wrap the discussion, if you can go back and give young Dave in whatever aspects of your career path, like what are some of the SWIKE that you'd want to share with yourself at the various kind of milestone points throughout your life?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things is being more visible.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of points within my career where I was acquiring the training. I was doing my job, and I believe I was doing it well. But unless you actually self-advocate and connect with others, provide a sense of shared value, a lot of those things, a lot of those things may just be expected, right? It's not, it doesn't kind of separate you or give you those opportunities. And again, I think part of it is letting others know what you want or what you're going after.
Sure.
Again, this is going several years back now, but I kind of created a plan for myself where I set that epic target for a career. Where did I want to go? And I recognized where I was at the time, what I've been able to accomplish, what experiences I've accumulated, and then started mapping out what might be my next steps. And that's honestly how the MBA came a level on that, thinking of what I was aspiring to be. That would be a stepping stone that would help me get there. So I think if I would have taken that approach a lot earlier in my career, definitely would have helped me along versus just going the traditional route, I guess.
Right. And what I took from that is, well, first of all, even know what you want in general, right? Because before you can tell other people what you want, you have to know what you want. And I know a lot of folks out there who are kind of like, they're going with the flow and just kind of going through whatever comes their way, which has its merits and has its value, but also it's kind of very reactive to whatever is given to you versus being more proactive to say, hey, I want to do this goal, like become a leader, an executive, or whatever it is that I want to do, and be able to kind of carve a path there versus, well, if they notice me, then they notice me, and if they want me to get promoted, maybe I'll do that, versus putting up your hand and saying, hey, you know what, I like the word you said, like self-advocate, and say, you know what, this is what I want to do. Like I'm not necessarily at that level right now, but I'd love to have these opportunities to grow and to put yourself out there. I think is definitely a key skill. Definitely something I relate to as well, because I don't think I was as visible as I should have been. And obviously I'm in pretty good state right now, but if I was earlier in my career, I probably would have been in a different spot as well. So are there any other kind of pieces of SWIKE or stuff I wish I knew earlier that you share with yourself as well? Maybe one or two others?
Yeah, so I think maybe going back to the health side, could have keyed in on it a little bit earlier. Like it's surprising that what seems so basic has such a huge impact. From the example of staying hydrated, drinking great glasses of water, starting off with 2 cups as soon as you get out of bed, does a huge favor for your mind and just your presence. Getting enough sleep, trying to get in good quality sleep, and staying on top of that. And obviously nutrition, the idea of we are what we eat. I kind of hear that saying before, but it's true when you look at the whole foods, trying to eat more vegetables and natural products, getting those vitamins and minerals. There's a lot of that help us perform, and versus the traditional North American diet, which does provide less dense nutritional values. So you're not getting the bang for your buck for what you're intaking. And I guess the last one would be mindset. Keying in on that positive can-do, having some certainty that you can accomplish what you're going after. And with that, it'll help you get to the actions needed to actually get the results that you're looking for.
Right. I think both of them are super important. So on the health side, obviously, if you're not taking care of yourself physically, then it makes the mental stuff really hard as well. And then obviously the mental stuff is kind of the game, right? So there's so many people who like physically we all kind of have the same number of hours. We're relatively kind of the same from a health perspective, but it's oftentimes that mindset that really sets people apart. And some conversations that I've been having with folks is I mean less about like kind of the positive and negative, because a lot of those things are quite subjective, and the conversation for us has turned to kind of the appropriateness of certain emotions and attitudes that you have, and then also being a little bit more purposeful, because like the negative emotions of being sad and angry and stuff like that, they serve a purpose. And like if something traumatic happens to you, you should probably be sad or angry at that point, right? You don't want to go to a funeral and be like, oh, I'm so happy and happy-go-lucky, right? There's an appropriateness to it. But the other part is also being purposeful in your thinking, which I think is kind of the new I guess vocabulary that I'm using instead of kind of positive and negative, because you can be thinking kind of quote unquote negative things, but if you're purposeful about that, it's like, I want to be sad because I just lost someone that was close to me, that is appropriate and worthwhile, versus saying, you know what, I no longer want to purposely do that because it's not serving me, and that becomes kind of a different sort of attitude and thing to consider. So thanks so much, Dave, for sharing your insights, your SWIKE, and a little bit of your journey, and hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode. But where can folks connect with you if they want to do so? And I guess, are there any kind of future aspirations or things that we can look forward to hearing from you in the future?
Sure. Yeah, I can connect with me on LinkedIn at David Catallo. And yeah, I'm currently finishing up my holistic nutrition coaching program. So looking forward to getting that completed and be able to support others, and maybe some courses down the road as well.
Sounds great. So thanks again, Dave, for sharing your insights on health and safety and even some of the business stuff and candles and whatever. But thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back for another episode.
That sounds great. Thanks, Luki. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Lukidanu, Lukidanu, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.